Good evening, and welcome to the National Civil Rights Museum, the new National Civil Rights Museum. I greet you today on behalf of the board and the staff of the National Civil Rights Museum, and I'd like to welcome our ambassador, Ambassador Ajit Kumar, to Memphis and to the world's greatest civil rights museum. Did you all enjoy your tours?
Yes.
What'd you think about our new museum?
Wow.
Awesome. Absolutely. You know, I count many of you in this room as my personal friends because our relationship goes back to more than a decade when I first had the opportunity to meet many of you. As I think about my relationship, I know that it extends from contributions many of you made to funding the original Gandhi exhibit that was here. The ambassador at that time came to unveil that exhibit. It also extends from the unveiling of that first exhibit to working with Manoj and Rashid in supporting and executing the annual Gandhi King Conference, of which the National Civil Rights Museum has been a major sponsor for the last several years. It extends from Shaila, my favorite board member, from her, her unwavering support on the board of the National Civil Rights Museum, to Harish's gift of case goods to the museum when we really needed them. It extends from Madane's careful attention to the portrayal of Gandhi in the new exhibition to this great reception this evening. So many of you have played such a vital role to the success of this museum as it has moved from a regional institution to a major and profound global presence. And while we have been engaged in this $40 million campaign, and it has been a capital and endowment campaign, and we've raised $28 million to redo this National Civil Rights Museum, I do want you to know that we still have 12 million more to go. and so, if you think of a place where I can get a cool $5 million, just let me know. I'll take one as well. But we are continuing to finish off our endowment campaign as well. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for all that you have done. And while we have made great strides in attempting to make America a more perfect union, we still have much work left to do. And as we think about King's quest for the beloved community, I'm reminded of the words of a former U.S. Secretary, Patricia Harris, who said, "We defeat opposition with liberty. We cure indifference with compassion. We remedy social injustice with justice. And if our journey embodies their lasting principles, we finally find peace." And that is the quest we will all seek for. That is really what Dr. King's philosophy was all about. That's really what Mohandas Gandhi's philosophy was all about. And I'm sure many of you still are aligned with those philosophies. So welcome to this new institution. Tell lots of people about it. Become our special ambassadors. We welcome you and we thank you for sharing this special evening with us. Thank you very much. Sit down without inviting one of our most wonderful board members who is always there when we need her. And when I tell you that, I really do mean that. Shaila has been a part of so much of the growth and development of the National Civil Rights Museum, and we really owe her a special debt of gratitude. So I want you to join me in welcoming her to the mic.
That is why you never go after the communicator of the year Award recipient, Beverly Robertson. More so, if it is as big and huge a personality with that booming voice and all the pyrotechnics that goes with it. Thank you, Beverly. As a founding board member of the Indian Community Fund and a director of the board of the National Civil Rights Movement, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome all of you here to this hallowed ground, a memorial to Martin Luther King. Honorable Minister Ajit Kumar, it is our distinct pleasure to have you here. 12 years ago, we stood here on this sacred ground, celebrating our very first contribution to the city of Memphis, an exhibit of Mahatma Gandhi, funded by you, to the National Civil Rights Museum. Our own Mahatma Gandhi was the inspiration for the great civil rights leader, Martin Luther King, who with great precision implemented Gandhi's strategy for the civil rights movement in America. I'm honored and humbled to be here, and I'm also very keenly aware of my civil rights and personal privileges. I'm aware that they did not come free. Freedom, that word freedom, is a misnomer, because it's never free. People have given their sweat and blood. We can never forget blood and lives sacrificed that has ensured us a place in society here. Let us never forget that civil rights and privileges we take for granted was because 5 decades ago, people walked. Because civil rights leaders walked, civil rights law was passed by Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964. Let us never forget that because they marched, voting rights bill was signed. Because they marched, borders were opened, and Indian nationals like you and I were able to come to this beautiful country and establish ourselves. Let us ensure that memory never fades. Let us always be here to support the National Civil Rights Museum. For the past 12 years, in collaboration with the National Civil Rights Museum, we have conducted an essay contest for high schoolers in the city and given away $15,000 in scholarships. And here we stand, holding hands again with the museum after we have made a renewed commitment towards this crown jewel of Memphis. This masterpiece of a museum, said by New York Times to have set a new standard for museums in the country. I would now like to take a moment to acknowledge all founding board members of Indian Community Fund. If you'll please rise, and please hold your applause, all of you. If all the founding board members, Madan Birla was the first one who talked about bringing an exhibit here. Harish, all the founding board members, please rise. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge them and their spouses, because we all know that nothing happens without support from the spouses. Thank you very much. Will all ICFGM board members and the ambassadorial board please stand. Okay? Please. We have several leaders of non-profit organizations here. We have Jim Duncan, if you'll please rise. Memphis Botanic Gardens. We have Linda Marks from MIFA. Thank you. We have Trinity Coalition. We have a group from Trinity Coalition. Linda Segrest. Lyman Aldrich, the founder of Memphis in May. We also have several members and the chair of the National Civil Rights Museum here. Herb Elliott, the chair. John Cole, board member. Our deepest gratitude to Chet Mabai. Is he here?
Working.
They helped us with a lot of assistance setting up the chairs in the room. And finally, as many of you know, our dear friend, Beverly Robertson, museum president extraordinaire, will be retiring from the museum. Will all of you please rise? Give a thunderous ovation for Ms. Robertson. What a legacy she leaves behind.